Welcome to Heather Ewing, the CRE Rundown. I am your host, Heather Ewing, and today I have none other than Sarah Carlson. She is the Business Development Manager for Sketchworks here in Madison, Wisconsin. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks so much for having me, Heather. I'm looking forward to it. Good to see you.
Yes, you too, my dear, definitely. So, as you know, I always like to give people an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves. So then obviously we know each other well. Just for those that might be outside of Madison that don't recognize or know who you are yet.
Sure. I've been business development manager at Sketchworks Architecture for going on a couple of years already. Hard to believe. Locally, a lot of people say, "Do you look familiar?" or "I recognize your name," because I spent a large part of my career here in the Madison area in television news as an anchor. So while a lot of people go, architecture, anchor, how do those two things, mesh? Frankly, my journalism background and business development really are a perfect fit. So I was introduced to the partner at Sketchworks, Steve Shelfer, through a friend of a friend, and it really worked out great.
And that's how so many different opportunities arise, right? Whether it's
Exactly.
commercial real estate, design related, such as architecture, any different arena, networking is really a secret sauce. And along those lines, you're just such a personable person and warm and genuinely care, which I think is a big differentiator. What would you say are a couple of things that you like to recommend to people from the networking vantage point?
Oh gosh, it's hard to recommend it sometimes because some people don't have that in them. But I always say, don't be afraid to talk to anybody in a room. I love actually that thrill of introducing myself to somebody new, whether I know them, who they are rather, or not. So I think not being afraid to be yourself and not being afraid to reach out and introduce yourself in any location. I think you and I have been to a lot of the same networking events, but
Right.
sometimes, if you're at a coffee shop and there's someone you know with someone you know, introducing yourself and leaving a business card, it can never hurt most of the time.
Right, exactly. Well, and two, one of the really neat things about it is that architecture, I always have loved design, so it fits in so nicely with commercial real estate. What got you into architecture, right? How did you end up there and how do you see it fueling
It's
forward?
interesting. I didn't know how much this larger industry, um, I didn't know how much I would have to get to know about it. And it's been so fascinating and so much fun for me because architecture is just one step in the process, as we know, and development and real estate. I'm so excited to be doing it in Madison. So, what's fueled me and my energy in the last year or two is watching the statistics and watching the energy behind the growth in this area. It's tremendous. Some people are a little hesitant to see it happen, but I know the professionals that are doing it and helping it happen all have a lot of really good means. I mean, they mean well, is what I mean by that.
Right.
So it's been a lot of fun to learn that what I thought was a really growing area is even growing faster, hard to keep up with in a lot of cases, and making that look nice. And so, from the design element, we want to make multifamily and other sorts of hospitality look nice from the outside and inside, so that Madison that we've known for however long we've lived here, or for those who visit, can be the Madison that we love. So yeah, it's been just fascinating and constantly learning, as you know.
Right. And I think having grown up in the area and been here for, my lifetime for the most part outside of college, that Madison really is near and dear to so many people's hearts, obviously mine and others, that I think it creates a special bond with design, with some of these different commercial real estate opportunities that are in the area, that the asset classes and things of that nature.
Mhm.
How do you envision architecture shifting over the next several years? Like we hear a lot about AI, of is
Yeah.
AI going to replace this or that, right? I think there's frequently fear or concern from mass groups when there is something new to the arena. But how do you envision it changing?
I probably don't have the best answer because I'm not an architect, but I think my answer would be an interesting one because I'm looking from the outside a bit, even though I work for an architecture firm. I think AI can help. AI might help architects and firms, big and small, do things faster, perhaps, but I
Mhm.
don't think it can replace the unique spin that an architect can put on something. And every client has a different recommendation, has a different need, demand,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and vision. And they want to see a certain kind of building or interior in a certain way, and AI can only go so far. I mean, I know, for example, with writing, you can stick something in and it'll look like AI. It always needs to be edited. And I believe there will always need to be a body and a mind and a hand and a computer behind that with a person, a human. Thank goodness.
Right. And I think to your point also that it really does free up um, time for the mundane aspects
Right?
to allow for higher level creativity, thinking, really also in the connection points between people, groups. And I'm sure you'll agree that, in working with architects, that it's so important to have that good feedback loop, communications,
Mhm.
and in creating some of those designs, because if you don't understand your end user, how are you ever going to come up with a creative design, interior, exterior, that is really going to be conducive to their needs or even help elevate them and bring them into that next level?
Yeah, I really do have a lot of respect for and awe, frankly, the architects and the designers that I work with. I watch what they do and I don't know how to do everything they do. I just get to so-called brag about it. But again, what they do is artwork.
Definitely. I call it
Mhm.
art on a grand scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. So, how do you see mindset? So, the interesting thing, you're in business development and kind of like me as a broker, I really understand my arena, but that's also why I work with great architects, great contractors, great sign companies, things of that nature. We always need to have our pivotal partners, is what I like to say.
Yeah.
What what do you see from a mindset of, life is busy these days, careers are busy, sales is busy, and we're always out and about and juggling various things. What type of mindset do you utilize to help you keep it all going together? Because you have so many events.
I think one of the things I mentioned to you before is thinking about yourself first, even though you aren't really putting yourself first every day when you're busy from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. sometimes, but trying
Mhm.
to find a way to do that in addition to getting everything done. Knowing what your self-worth is on a personal level and keeping that in mind to stay confident, and then getting through the day, even though it's busy, feeling better. I also am a big believer, and you and I have talked about this, in finding ways to breathe. And I say slow down, but really in a lot of cases that means go on a run. So the
Right.
mindset is I'm going to get my day started or end my day for me, making myself feel like I'm rejuvenated, I'm re-energized, and then all of that busyness that feels like a whirlwind sometimes, it'll be nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where too you hear typically the word, selfish tied in with that. And
Yeah.
the way I see it is that, to your point, if you're not taking care of yourself, especially blanketing the day, right? In the morning, in the evening, of if your tank is on zero, how are you ever going to really be able to show up in career or life and provide more and give more, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I have had health issues in the past. So I have epilepsy, something that I've been dealing with for 15 years and seizure free now, more than three. So I'm so
Great.
grateful every morning when I wake up. But I also know that I have to take care of my body in a way that
Yeah.
perhaps others don't. I remind myself all the time, and that's what you have to do. Remind yourself, write things down. It helps.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So running, which you touched on, obviously near and dear to both of our hearts.
Hmm.
How did you get into it, and how do you use that? How do you find ways to get your running in, right? Because that's something I'm sure you hear all the time too,
Right.
of how in the world do you ever find the time to train for this race, to train for that marathon.
Exactly.
What's
Well,
your
first of
what's your
all,
recipe for success on that?
yeah, I have to congratulate you on running Boston. I mean, that is
Thank you.
one of my life goals, and I've run several marathons, all Chicago,
Right.
but I've done it about 7 or 8 times. I don't
Yeah.
always do distance running, but I do believe that a little bit of it goes a
Hmm.
long way. So when
I
people say,
agree
"How do you get
completely.
that in?" Well, when there are days like weekends that there aren't work events or work to do, you can do a longer one. Or
Mhm.
anyone who wants to try can always try doing a mile. And I'm a big believer in getting outside. So people who say, "Oh, I don't like running," I say, then go on a walk. I also honestly believe it prevents me from getting colds. It makes me happier, whether I'm walking the dog or just sitting outside. But running is something I started probably, gosh, in my 20s and just a few miles here and there. And it was a lot later in my life, actually, in my early 40s, that I started the distance running.
Mhm.
Interestingly, it was really therapeutic for me around the time I was diagnosed with epilepsy and going through so many things. I would get out there and let hours go by. And that was a great training run and a great therapy session all in one.
Exactly. It's the cure all, folks.
It can be if you want it to be and if you let it be.
I agree. It's as I reflect on mine as well, I got into distance in 2015. So the interesting thing is that ties in with me for commercial real estate. And it was one of those of it was just challenging in other careers, years prior to really fit it all together. And because you can literally
Mhm.
walk out your door and start to run, that was one of the things that I really liked about it. And then to my brother, there's some interesting parallels because like yourself, he too has epilepsy
Yeah.
and is seizure free, thankfully, as well. But he was the one that always did the running. So that inspired me many years ago. But I think the nice thing about it, and I think you'll agree too, is with our distance running, is that it really ties into career, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's architecture, whether it's brokerage, any arm that you're in, that there's always going to be the big projects. You have to tactically break them down. You have to work together. You also have to work solo on things. And the exertion, I think, also helps you to put different things in place and also come up with different ideas,
Oh yeah. You have weather
right?
getting in your way and you have other little things getting in your way when you're training, but there's that perseverance. You can't just stop.
Exactly.
And that does
Right.
relate so much to what you do professionally. I agree. I agree.
Hmm.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think actually it'd be more hard not to train for people than to train with it because I've always noticed that there seems to be a correlation between the two for me.
Yep. I agree. It puts you in a
Mhm.
different state of mind. And again, self-worth, self-confidence, and it all wraps in
Yep,
big
definitely in a
time.
positive attitude.
Yeah. Trying.
Yeah. Oh, you do. You do. So, what do you envision, right, as, for 2024, um, inflation rates have been high. Everything has been really busy, especially in Madison, to your point with design, with construction, multifamily.
Mhm.
Wisconsin is number one as far as all of that happening. And office is still struggling.
Yeah.
Retail restaurants is picking up. What is a unique way that Sketchworks, works with some of these different areas, or what is something that they're able to really shine in that you'd like to share?
Well, thanks for asking that. Sketchworks, one of the things I love about it is that we are in commercial, architecture for everything but single family homes. So we really do know how to do a lot. And when I was told that, I thought, well, how can you be an expert in everything? And then I've watched uh, hands-on how remarkable we are with all of these different projects. Multifamily has been about a third of what we do in recent years, and that's because of the growth that we're having population wise. But some of the restaurants that I've seen, coffee houses, and then several of them that are very popular in the area. Right now, we're working on a manufacturing plant. The owner is really loves his employees and wants to completely remodel and gut the inside and have more light come in and then build out So we will be building a really cool new employee gathering area, lounge, kitchen, you name it. So everything from manufacturing to breweries and distilleries as well, one of our niches, which is super fun. Um, so what I love about what Sketchworks can provide is if you ask, can you do this? The answer is yes,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time.
Right. It's like you'll find a way, right?
We'll find a way, and we've done it before. So I've
Yeah.
been, as I, learn more about my job and about the firm, able to come up and go through files and pull up photos and say, oh, wow, we did all of these different things related to that when someone asks about it. And it's pretty tremendous. And Sketchworks is celebrating 20 years too.
That's come up quick.
Yeah, I
It
know, right?
flies by, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Mhm. What would you suggest if someone is interested in getting into architecture? Do you frequently offer internships? What might be something that you could suggest for people? And I know this question just bubbled up for me, but what might be a path or two that you would recommend for people?
It's a great question, and we do have interns. We've used interns for design, we've used interns for interior design. So I would say, absolutely, no matter where you are, reach out to your local architecture firm and ask that question. And I imagine someone will need an architecture intern, and you can learn
Mhm.
so much just by standing by. And frankly, even though I'm not an intern, I have loved sitting in on meetings to learn more about what they do and how projects begin. And I obviously then won't sit and hover over somebody's desk when they're designing, but you can learn a lot just by being in that environment a lot.
Definitely. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed also through brokerage that it seems like people will want to have an answer without really digging into something.
Yeah.
And it's really in starting to emotionalize, feel, and map out what the steps would be, maybe the dollar amounts,
Mhm.
different factors like that, that people then start to really feel, is this the avenue that I want to go? Is this the amount of the investment? Do I need
Yeah.
to go here or there, or does it line up? So there is something about really taking the steps and experiencing it to know if it's the right fit or not.
Yeah, we see a lot of clients and then potential clients who come to us and say, we have this lot of land. We are thinking about purchasing it. We're envisioning this. And we work
Yeah,
a lot with some people who don't end up becoming clients, but perhaps they will down the road, and some have. But that's all worth every minute of it too, to just go through those motions.
definitely.
Yeah.
So my big question is, what next run are you training for? I know you just ran one with your daughter.
I did it, even though I've done full marathons, and those are just so tremendous. This was a half
Yeah.
marathon in Savannah, Georgia, where she goes to college,
Yes.
and crossing a finish line holding hands. It's hard to beat
Yeah.
with
I
my
saw that picture. I
yeah,
loved it.
yeah. And my
Mhm.
adult daughter, it was so special. I am thinking about running Chicago again this year.
Yeah.
I am actually signed up to do it. Depending on life circumstances, I'm getting married in a couple of months. So
It's exciting.
lots of
Congratulations.
moving parts with my
Yes.
daughter home.
Yes.
It depends on that whether I'll run Chicago, but my goal is to run all the majors, which I
Yep.
know might be one of your goals too.
It is.
If
I've
I'm not
got
mistaken.
Tokyo remaining.
You
The
only have
others are
one
done.
left. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so
Yes.
cool. And
So
I've
we're
always wanted to,
targeting next year.
oh, good. I've always
We'll
wanted to
see.
visit all of those cities. I've been to a few of them, but Tokyo
Yeah.
especially. And I hear really cool things about it from a couple of people who've run it. So I would
Yeah.
love to do that. And I know I'll be in my 50s, but I never want to say that's why I can't do it. I'm just
Oh,
going to keep running.
yeah. There's people in their 80s that are running. And
I
some
know.
of them are very quick.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts about running marathons is seeing all different kinds of people, ages, shapes, sizes, color, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And they're
Yep.
faster or not, but it's just such a great community feel. I love it. A
Oh,
family.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, the thing I've taken also from the different marathons like you have is it's really just staying active and keep moving. It's
Mhm.
when you stop that, you can always return. And you and I have both returned from different things, but it's really of anything you can do to keep moving is going to be helpful throughout life. And it really opens the doors to a long and healthy life, which is exciting.
That
So,
and both, like you say, physically, but also professionally.
yeah, exactly. Well, and that's where too, I've met several people that I work with through a run group.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So networking too, kind of like we had talked about in the beginning, really spread yourself out, try different things, do something different. You never know who you'll meet and continue working with. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
My final question for you
Oh, sure.
is what does living fully mean to you, Sarah?
Honestly, living fully is, I think I might have mentioned this cheesy concept of waking up happy to be here. But
That's
having
true.
gone through so much physically with my
Right.
health, living fully is appreciating what I have and appreciating where I am. So another seizure-free day is what I appreciate and what I'm living fully. And then also trying to give back. And giving back doesn't just mean I'm volunteering for the Epilepsy Foundation. That's something I do, but giving back to the neighbors and giving back to
Yeah.
a person who might be a friend or a colleague that just needs someone to talk to. And I want to
Yeah.
be remembered as somebody who wanted to give back. And that would be, in the
Mhm.
end, how I would be want to be remembered too. That's a
Yeah.
great question.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, definitely. And I would say anyone that knows you would definitely agree that you are hitting the mark on all of those aspects of it. So
Thank you, my dear. Thank you.
definitely. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And I look forward to connecting another time.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Heather.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.